Right now, in this precise instant when your thoughts get tangled and your breathing accelerates from thinking too much, there is someone moving forward while you hesitate. They are not more brilliant than you, not more skilled, not more capable, but they are claiming what could have been yours. That someone is closing a deal, conquering a glance, obtaining a promotion that logically could have been yours. And they do it because they move without asking permission, because they project confidence, even if it's a fragile mask, even if inside they tremble just like you. The world does not kneel before justice, nor before truth, nor before impeccable preparation. The world responds to those who seem convinced. Conviction is the master key that opens closed doors. And here is the uncomfortable truth. It doesn't matter if you're right. What matters is if you dare to act as if you were. Whoever speaks with decision, whoever walks as if they already possess the space they step on, drags others with their mere presence. That real or feigned confidence is enough for the multitudes to bend. It's almost biological. The human brain seeks leaders in whom to reflect certainty, because doubt consumes energy, and following someone confident saves us that effort. This is how it has worked since tribal times. The strongest animal didn't always command. The one who seemed to fear nothing commanded. That illusion of power is sometimes more powerful than power itself, and there you are. You who analyze every detail, who calculate 10 possibilities before taking a step, trapped in the mirage of the perfect moment, an instant that never comes because it doesn't exist. You tell yourself you need more signs, more practice, more preparation, and that weight condemns you. It's like being on the shore of a river with water flowing, convinced that there will be a minute when the current stops, so you can cross without getting wet. But that minute never appears, and while you wait, others without thinking are already on the other side. What differentiates those who advance from those who fall behind is not talent, nor justice, nor destiny. It's the audacity to act even with fear. The less brilliant one takes your place, because they understood that in this world, displayed confidence is rewarded more than inner truth. The stage belongs to whoever climbs on it, not to whoever observes from the shadow. Here is your dilemma. You can continue feeding that voice that tells you it's not the moment yet, or you can start killing that inner servant that feeds on your paralysis. That servant is not you, although it wears your face. It's the echo of your education, of your wounds, of your learned need for approval. It's the child who raised their hand to ask permission, the adolescent who lowered their gaze to avoid judgment, the adult who fears being wrong to be seen. That servant is the invisible prison in which you dwell. And if you don't destroy it, it will govern your life in silence. Machiavelli knew it. History does not remember those who waited for approval. It remembers those who acted with coldness, with calculation, with certainty. Power is not begged for, it is taken. The world does not open to those who wait, but to those who burst in. And that burst begins with a radical transformation. Stop asking permission to exist. Don't confuse this with cheap motivation. Motivation is a sugar rush. It sweetens an instant but leaves you empty. This is not a speech to inspire you, but a war map, a mental guide to annihilate the servant you carry inside and awaken the sovereign who has been waiting forever. And you must understand, this knowledge is a dangerous weapon. Once you possess it, you cannot ignore it. If you close your eyes, you will see the chains you once believed invisible. You will recognize how others manipulate, how they impose their will disguising their weakness as strength. That clarity can destroy you if you don't use it. It can make you cynical, defeated, resentful, or it can turn you into a strategist. That is your choice. Continue being a piece on someone else's board, or become the player who moves the pieces. Live waiting for life to be fair, or accept that life is a battlefield where justice is only an illusion. If you decide to cross that threshold, your transformation begins with a first key, and that key is simple to name but brutal to apply. Move as if the room were already yours. It's not about arrogance but about presence. The powerful man doesn't arrive announcing himself. He arrives and the air changes. The powerful woman doesn't speak louder. Her silence weighs more than others' words. That's the difference. It's not noise, it's gravity. And gravity is created with the body before the voice. Walk slower. Haste is a sign of servitude. Whoever hurries is whoever fears losing something. The sovereign never runs because he knows everything comes in its time. Occupy space naturally. Don't shrink. Don't cross your arms. Don't protect yourself from invisible enemies. Bodily openness tells others' primitive brain, I don't fear because there is nothing here that can hurt me. That is the first sign of power. Your voice is also a weapon. A phrase that ends in rising tone asks for validation, right? Don't you think? It's the echo of the slave asking permission. A descending phrase is a decree. It is pronounced and fulfilled. Your voice must go down, not up. Not like a scream, but like a calm sentence, a declaration without doubts. Don't chase the energy of the room. Don't seek to fit into a circle. Make the circle form around you. The one who runs after approval never reaches it. The one who creates their own gravity forces others to orbit around them. That behavior is not theater to impress others. It's a message to your own nervous system. When you walk slowly, when you occupy space, when you speak firmly, you are hacking your biology. You are sending a code to the brain. We are safe. We own time. We have control. And your body, your mind, and your environment believe it. Jean-Paul Sartre expressed it differently. The human being is condemned to be free, and that condemnation terrifies. That's why we constantly seek others to tell us what to do, for others to decide for us, for others to grant us permission. But that comfort is a chain. When you stop asking permission, you assume the weight of your freedom. It's hard, yes, but it's the price of sovereignty. If you enter a room and it wasn't yours, when you leave it will be in everyone's memory. Not because you claimed it with words, but because your mere presence imposed it. That is the first key, and when you master it, the inner servant will begin to falter. But we have barely begun. The war within you requires more weapons, more strategies, and the next key delves into even deeper territory, the word. Because whoever masters their language doesn't just communicate, they govern. Speaking is governing, but most people speak as if they're apologizing for existing. Their words tremble, get tangled, ask permission. They think they're communicating, but in reality they're disarming themselves before entering battle. Their filler words, their nervous laughter, their weak phrases reveal what they're trying to hide. Fear, power, on the other hand, manifests in the way of speaking, not in shouting louder, but in knowing when to be quiet and when to let each word fall like a hammer. Machiavelli observed that in princes' courts, it was often not the king who dominated, but that silent counselor whom everyone listened to when he finally decided to speak. Silence accumulated authority. The voice, in contrast, became gold because it appeared rarely. The weak one fills the air with useless phrases. The strong one reserves their words, observes, analyzes. They don't respond immediately because they know that the first to speak usually shows what they fear. Whoever speaks too soon hands over their cards, exposes their insecurities, reveals what hurts them, and the strategist who observes receives a complete map of their opponent without having spent a single bullet. That's why your task is not to speak more, but to speak as if each word were irrefutable. Eliminate the softness, the I think, the perhaps, the it's just my opinion. Those are holes through which your authority escapes. Speak as if what you say cannot be disputed. Don't over-explain. Don't justify, declare, and then keep silent. Silence is the invisible dagger that the other doesn't know how to face. The power of the word is not only in what you say, but in what you keep quiet. In a meeting, in a discussion, in a negotiation, every uncomfortable silence you generate increases your control, because the other will be forced to fill it, and in that attempt they will reveal more than they should. Whoever masters silence has already won half the battle. But there is something more dangerous than speaking weakly, wanting to be understood. Here hides the most common poison of servile minds, the desire to explain your intentions, to show you're a good person, to convince the other of your nobility. That desire is the rope they tie you with. Whoever needs to be understood is always willing to hand over their power in exchange for approval. Free yourself from that need. Your mission is not to be understood. Your mission is to move pieces. Understanding will come later, or it won't come at all. It doesn't matter. The sovereign doesn't act to be justified. They act because they know their action is necessary. That's the difference between the servant and the sovereign. The first seeks approval, the second generates results. Emotional self-control is the basis of this key. The servant reacts. If insulted, they get angry. If doubted, they justify themselves. If rejected, they collapse. The sovereign uses each stimulus as fuel. An insult reveals the other's insecurity. A doubt becomes space to act. A rejection is simply information. The power is in not reacting with predictable emotions, When you stop being moved by the exterior, when your internal state no longer depends on what others do or say, you become a mystery, and mysteries generate respect. Nobody knows how to manipulate you. Nobody knows how to tempt you. Nobody knows how to bring you down. That opacity makes you unreachable, not because you're invulnerable, but because you don't reveal where to attack. Rejection, for example, most feel it as a wound. They rejected me. I'm not worth it. That's the servant's echo. Rejection in reality is clarity, a map that shows you where you still don't have power, who doesn't recognize your value, what space you haven't conquered yet, and the strategist uses that clarity to sharpen themselves, to return stronger. Rejection is a filter. It doesn't mean you're not enough, it means they're not ready for you. And that information is a treasure, because it allows you to adjust your path. The weak take it as confirmation of their insignificance. The strong take it as training. And when you return after a rejection, you don't return with resentment or ego. You return transformed, with such visible power that the same ones who ignored you cannot bear to look at you without remembering their mistake. That is true control. Not needing to say anything, not needing to show anger, just existing with such force that your presence makes them uncomfortable. The sovereign never seeks revenge. Revenge is quickfire, it's rage, it's passion. And passion, although intense, burns out quickly. The strategist doesn't wear themselves out seeking revenge. They simply evolve, ascend, become untouchable, and their mere existence becomes proof that those who rejected them were wrong. That is the most brutal humiliation, seeing that the one you despised now shines in a place where you can no longer reach them. The secret is in reframing the narrative. You weren't rejected. You withdrew from a game that was too small. They didn't discard you. They discarded themselves by demonstrating they didn't know how to recognize you, and you used that information as a filter, as proof. While they failed to see you, you discovered where you shouldn't spend your energy. That change in perspective isn't cheap consolation, it's pure strategy, because real power isn't measured in the times you were accepted, but in the ability to transform each rejection into a step. And when you do it, rejections stop hurting. They become weapons you use to grow. Here is where another of the master keys enters: indifference. Whoever reacts loses. Whoever maintains calm dominates. Provocation is the favorite tool of the mediocre. A hurtful comment, a poisoned joke, a gesture of contempt. All these moves seek the same thing: to test your defenses, to measure if they can move your emotions. If they succeed, they already control you. The servant reacts, gets angry, defends themselves, justifies themselves. The sovereign observes and remains unmoved, not because they don't feel, but because they don't give away their reaction. And that silence drives the provocateur crazy, because there's nothing more frustrating than launching an attack and it producing no effect. That is true power, deciding what you respond to and what you don't, being like the cliff that doesn't flinch even though the storm strikes with all its fury. That calm isn't passivity, it's absolute control. It's the certainty that nothing external dictates your internal state. And when you reach that point, you become untouchable, because nobody can shake you, nobody can manipulate you, nobody can anticipate your movements. But to not be moved by others' emotions, you must learn fluidity, be formless like water. Rigidity is death in the power game. Whoever always reacts the same, whoever always shows the same mask is predictable, and the predictable is exploitable. Water, in contrast, adapts, surrounds the rock, fills the void, seeps through the crack. That's how your strategy must be. Sometimes charming, sometimes distant, sometimes cold and calculating, sometimes bold and risky. You cannot be defined because what's defined is easy to attack. People fear what they cannot classify, and that fear becomes respect. When you are water, they cannot trap you. And when the right moment comes, you can strike like a tsunami. That is the essence of fluidity. Softness in form, brutality in impact. Up to here, you already have 3 more weapons. Speak as decree, kill the desire to be understood, and convert rejection into control. Now your arsenal grows, and with it your sovereignty. But there's still more. Because the true master of power doesn't run after anyone. They attract. The weak always run behind, chase attention, seek approval, try to enter circles that don't want them. And in that attempt they reveal their hunger. Hunger is fragrance for predators. It shows them what you desire, what you fear, what you don't have. The sovereign doesn't chase anything. The sovereign attracts. This is a principle the world doesn't teach you because the world is designed for you to run. They educated you to seek opportunities, to ask for interviews, to convince, to beg for crumbs. But true power is born at the opposite pole. When you stop chasing and start becoming the magnet. How is this achieved? With the art of bait. Bait isn't necessarily a lie. It's an insinuation, a promise, an empty space that awakens the other's curiosity or vanity. When you create an attractive void, people feel the need to fill it. That's the invisible trap. Don't rush to call. Don't show yourself anxious. Don't say, "Look at me." Make others want to know more. Let them take the first step. Let them feel the idea was theirs. The true strategist never pushes, they pull. Never begs, seduces. Never runs, waits, and in that wait builds their advantage. Imagine a chessboard. The desperate player moves pieces without thinking, revealing their plans. The master waits, places bait, leaves an open space that the other believes is an opportunity. And when the rival enters, they're trapped in an invisible cell. That's how power works. Never force the door. Leave the key in sight and watch as the other locks themselves in. Likewise, this principle becomes even clearer in groups. There the energy seems dispersed, but there's always a center of gravity. Never fight against the crowd. Don't argue with every voice. Don't try to convince everyone. Identify the shepherd. Every herd has one. It's not always the official boss. Sometimes it's the hidden charismatic. The counselor heard in private, the one everyone imitates in silence. That's the true core of power. Neutralize the shepherd and the flock disperses. You don't need energy to crush the group, only precision to move the key piece. The great strategists of history understood this. While others spent resources in multiple battles, they cut off the invisible head, and the rest of the body fell without resistance. That's how you dominate without exhaustion. But there's a trap on this path, ostentation. The servant needs to announce every achievement, because their identity depends on being seen. The sovereign works in darkness. Shadow is their ally. Whoever boasts becomes a target. Whoever keeps quiet becomes a threat. Truly powerful plans are built in silence. Your progress must be invisible until it's irreversible. Let them underestimate your movement. Let them believe you're still the same. Let them sleep peacefully thinking you represent no danger. Meanwhile, sharpen your sword in the hidden forge of your discipline. And when your work appears, let it be like lightning in a clear sky. Impossible to ignore, too late to stop. Never reveal too soon. Mystery is part of your shield. Whoever believes they know you has power over you. Whoever never finishes understanding you respects you with fear. Predictability kills power. Unpredictability multiplies it. One day you're generous, another day cold. Sometimes you speak, sometimes you're silent. Sometimes you smile, sometimes you're stone. It's not about incoherence, but about strategy. Don't allow them to always know what to expect. Make them spend their energy trying to decipher you. Let them never feel comfortable with you. Controlled discomfort is respect. People's deepest fear is the unpredictable, and if you manage to keep them in that state of constant alert, without ever showing your complete cards, they'll be forced to adapt to you. You become the weather, they mere travelers. You are the ocean, they fragile boats in your waters. But don't be confused. It's not about gratuitous cruelty. It's about balance. Excessive confidence in the predictable generates contempt. Uncertainty generates respect. Controlled oscillation keeps your power fresh, inexhaustible. At the same time, never forget the strongest motor of human psychology: self-interest. Whoever believes in goodness as the motor of human actions hasn't understood the crudeness of the game. Nobody moves out of gratitude or nobility. Those are fragile ornaments. The true force that directs most is personal gain. When you want to convince, don't talk about what you'll gain. Talk about what they'll obtain. Design your proposal so it seems like a gift for their ambition, their vanity, or their security. Make the path you want to travel coincide with the one they believe they chose. That's the cleanest manipulation, when the other does exactly what you need, believing they're doing it for themselves. That principle is as old as politics itself. Kings didn't give direct orders to everyone. They suggested benefits, showed rewards, insinuated prestige, and others moved convinced they were acting out of self-interest, when in reality they only served the greater plan. The sovereign converts others' selfishness into their tool. They don't fight against it, they take advantage of it. They don't ask for mercy or gratitude, because those emotions are weak. They build paths in which others see their own gain, and those paths inevitably lead them where they wanted. But for this principle to work, you must master another art: absence. The abundant loses value. What's always present becomes invisible. And you cannot allow yourself to be invisible. Your presence must feel like a phenomenon, not routine. Being always available makes you landscape. Being there from time to time makes you a comet. Rarity creates impact. Disappear at the right moment and create a void. Make your absence weigh more than your presence. Let others talk about you when you're not there. Let them realize your value only when they no longer have it in front of them. And when you return, come back with renewed strength, as if you had been in a place where nobody else could be, as if you had seen something they didn't see. That return generates respect, because it interrupts habit, makes you an event, not a habit. Here enters another unexpected tool: the gift. The weak believe frontal attack is power, but direct attack awakens direct defense. The sovereign, in contrast, knows that an unexpected gesture of generosity can disarm faster than 1,000 aggressions. When someone expects your hostility and receives a favor, their mental script breaks. They don't know how to respond. They feel debt. They feel doubt. That discomfort is your weapon. It's not genuine kindness. It's strategy. It's an emotional Trojan horse. You've put them in a vulnerable state because they no longer know if you're enemy or ally. A confused enemy is a disarmed enemy. That's the trap of the gift. It's not an act of love. It's a cold move. You've created a crack in their defense, and that crack is enough to move the board in your favor. Up to here, you already see how power isn't about brute force. It's about psychological strategy. Attract instead of chase, neutralize the shepherd instead of fighting the herd. Work in shadow instead of announcing your plan. Be unpredictable instead of routine. Use others' self-interest as fuel. Make your absence a weapon, and convert even a gesture of kindness into an invisible trap. With these keys, the servant within you suffocates. They can no longer dominate you, because you no longer live seeking approval. You live creating gravity. You no longer run behind. You are the force toward which everyone inevitably ends up moving. True power is not shouted, not begged, not discussed. True power is felt like a weight in the air, like a temperature change that nobody can ignore. And that atmosphere is only achieved when you understand that showing everything is weakness. Whoever reveals their cards becomes prey. Whoever hides part of themselves becomes mystery. Mystery is the most silent of weapons. Nobody fears what they fully understand. What terrifies is the incomplete, what cannot be classified, what escapes every label. An open book doesn't intimidate. A novel with torn chapters obsesses. If others believe they know you completely, they can anticipate each of your movements. If you force them to guess, they'll spend their energy deciphering you, and in that exhaustion you gain ground. Speak, yes, but don't show the complete map. Always leave a mystery, a void. Make people project onto you what they fear or what they admire. They, in their need to fill the spaces, will end up magnifying your figure beyond what you really are. And that projection becomes your shield, because what they imagine about you can be more fearsome than what you actually hide. This opacity has an immediate effect. It changes the direction of attention. You're no longer the ones seeking to be seen. They're the ones who cannot stop looking at you. Whoever cannot be explained becomes a topic, an obsession, a legend. But mystery, like every tool, must be accompanied by another, the ability to withdraw. Your value also depends on your scarcity. What's always offered loses shine. Constant presence becomes background noise. Calculated absence is music that never stops resonating in memory. Learn to disappear. Withdraw at your highest point when they still expect more from you. That void will force them to think about what you gave, to desire what's missing, and when you return, your return will have the impact of the unexpected. You'll be like a comet that cuts the sky suddenly, brief but unforgettable. Respect is often born from distance. However, the strategy of absence must be balanced with another art: intentional confusion. It's not enough to disappear. When you're present, you must be unpredictable. If you always smile, you become predictable. If you always stay quiet too. The key is in not giving constant signals. Once warm, another time distant, once generous, another time implacable. That change breaks the other's comfort and keeps them alert. Respect erodes when others believe they can anticipate you, and the anticipatable becomes manageable. The unpredictable, in contrast, forces everyone to treat you carefully. Nobody steps on terrain whose ground they don't know, and you must be that ground. But none of this works if you forget a brutal principle. Deep down, most people don't act out of morality, nor gratitude, nor justice. They act out of self-interest. Believing otherwise is dangerous naivety. If you depend on others' gratitude, you'll be betrayed. If you expect them to act out of goodness, you'll be disappointed. The sovereign understands this principle and turns it into a weapon. They never ask for favors, never appeal to others' sacrifice. They show paths in which the other gains something they desire. If your plan coincides with their ambition, they'll move with you, and they'll do it convinced they chose for themselves. That's the most effective manipulation, when the other believes they're doing what they want, without noticing they're actually executing your plan. Machiavelli knew it and wrote it without adornments. People forget favors but never forget their interests. If you want someone to move, make sure they see their own gain. That gain can be prestige, money, recognition, or security. It doesn't matter which. What's important is that they feel they benefit. You meanwhile obtain what you need without it seeming you asked for it. Now then, here opens a deeper paradox. Others' self-interest doesn't always play in your favor. Sometimes it closes doors, and in that instant is when rejection appears. Rejection is not a wall, it's a mirror. It shows you what the other doesn't value, what they don't understand, what they can't see yet. The weak take it as personal injury. The strong use it as a filter. Not everyone is designed to recognize your power. Not everyone has eyes to see it. And that's okay, because each no you receive is a compass that points you toward a different terrain, where your value will be impossible to deny. Rejection is actually a test of purity. It allows you to separate who is at your level and who isn't. It reveals to you whom you should dedicate your energy to and from whom you should withdraw it. And when you return, it's not with resentment, but with transformation. You return so elevated that those who once ignored you now tremble before the discomfort of having been wrong about you. That discomfort is your victory. But the most powerful victory doesn't come through confrontation, but through indifference. There is no more desperate weapon for your enemy than the void of your reaction. The weak expect you to get angry, to justify yourself, to defend yourself. And when you don't, they break because suddenly they understand they have no power over you, and that understanding disarms them. Indifference is pure power, not coldness, but control. It's looking at an attack and not allowing it to penetrate your center. It's hearing mockery and not giving the gift of your reaction. It's understanding that all provocation is a test to measure your weakness. And if you don't react, if you keep your center intact, the provocateur exposes themselves as weak, as needy, as transparent. That's the sovereign's secret. Never giving away their emotions. The emotions are weapons. If you hand them over, the other will use them against you. If you keep them, they become fuel for your discipline. It's not about not feeling, it's about not handing over. That difference changes everything. Now understand this. True power is not static. It's not about always maintaining the same mask. That would be rigidity. And rigidity breaks. Power is fluidity. It must be water. Water never loses. Water never clings to a form. It adapts to the container, surrounds the rock, seeps through the crack, accumulates in silence until it becomes a torrent. That's how you must be. Flexible on the surface, implacable at the bottom. Today kind, tomorrow cold. Today distant, tomorrow close. Nobody should be able to say, I know who they are. I know how they'll react. That certainty would be your death. Uncertainty, in contrast, is your life. Whoever cannot classify you respects you. Whoever cannot label you fears you. And when the right moment comes, be water turned into tsunami. The blow nobody expected. The burst that sweeps away everything. That duality, softness and strength, is the essence of power that endures. Up to here you already see the hidden plot. Mystery, absence, unpredictability, self-interest, indifference, fluidity. These are not theories, they are tools. If you apply them, the inner servant who asks for permissions shuts up. Because you no longer live waiting for approval, you live designing the game. But the final phase is still missing, the definitive blow. Because the sovereign not only observes and adapts, the sovereign also knows when to enter the scene with the precision of a scalpel. And that last revelation will be what annihilates the servant forever. The sovereign understands a truth the servant never dares to look at head on. Life is not a fair stage, it's a strategy board. And on that board, each movement reveals who governs and who obeys. The weak run after others, try to please, beg for recognition. The strong design the game and force others to play on their terrain. But to design the game, you must master the art of shadow. The sun blinds, shadow protects. The servant needs to show everything they do because their value depends on being seen. The sovereign, in contrast, cultivates darkness as their ally. They work in silence, build without announcing, weave alliances where nobody observes them. And when they appear in light, there's no prior warning, only impact. The silent blow is always the most devastating. You don't warn that you've changed, you don't warn that you've grown, you don't warn that you prepared, you simply show it when it's already irreversible. Whoever realizes your power at that instant no longer has time to stop it. Your ascent must feel like thunder in a clear sky, unexpected, brutal, impossible to ignore. But there's an even more precise weapon: uncertainty. Whoever believes they know you lowers their guard. Whoever doesn't know what to expect from you lives in permanent alert. And that tension is your victory. People fear what they don't control. And if you are that uncontrollable factor, if you're the piece that never quite fits, they'll be forced to treat you with respect. Uncertainty becomes an aura that surrounds you. Today you're an ally, tomorrow a judge. Today you're a breeze, tomorrow a storm. Never stable enough to be ignored. Unpredictability must be dosed, never chaotic. It's a calculated game. Too much instability destroys your credibility. But the right dose turns each of your movements into something others wait for nervously. You don't become a spectacle, you become weather. Weather doesn't ask permission. Weather simply imposes itself. At the same time, never forget that every human being, even the proudest, responds to a single motor: their self-interest. Don't ask for compassion. Don't appeal to gratitude. Don't beg for justice. All that is terrain for the naive. Design your movements so others believe they're winning with you. Make their ego, their ambition, or their vanity work in your favor. That's the most subtle manipulation. When the other does exactly what you need, convinced they chose it for themselves. You didn't force them. You didn't convince them, you designed them. You became the architect of their desires. And while they celebrate their personal victory, you celebrate yours. But there's an even more unexpected weapon: the gift. Not the genuine gift, but the calculated gesture that disarms the enemy. When someone expects hostility and receives generosity, their internal script breaks. They're forced to lower their guard. They feel an invisible debt, and that debt becomes the crack through which you can penetrate. Strategic kindness is the oldest Trojan horse in history. Your enemies expect your frontal attack. Don't give them the pleasure of anticipating it. Confuse them with a kind gesture, with an unexpected detail. That confusion is power, not because it makes you good, but because it makes you unreadable. And what's unreadable is untamable. But even with all these weapons, never forget the last rule. Never reveal all your cards. No matter how much you've shown, how much you've advanced, always keep a part in reserve. A skill nobody knows, a truth nobody suspects, a hidden resource. Mystery must be permanent. Whoever believes they've already deciphered you will dare to underestimate you. And underestimation is the perfect trap for your counterattack. The sovereign is not an open book. It's an enigma with missing pages. It's an equation with unknown variables, and in that unknown resides their power. Because the deepest human fear is not violence. It's what is not fully understood. Now look at what you have before you, an arsenal of psychological keys, each designed to annihilate the servant and awaken the sovereign. The language of your body, the firmness of your voice, the use of silence, indifference to provocation, the fluidity of water, the ability to attract instead of chase, the strategy of absence, the power of mystery, the manipulation of self-interest, the unexpected gift, the secret never revealed. All these pieces form a mechanism of power that cannot be ignored. But you must understand something essential. This knowledge is useless if you turn it into mere theory. You can close this text, return to your life, and let the servant continue dictating your movements. Or you can start the war right now. The war against the voice that asks permission. The war against the need to be understood. The war against the fear of being rejected. The war against your habit of waiting. This is not a battle against the world, it's a battle against yourself, against the part of you that obeys, that doubts, that apologizes for existing. That's the true enemy. And until you destroy it, you'll continue being a pawn on others' boards. But if you take these keys and apply them, if you stop running and start attracting, if you stop asking and start imposing, then the servant dies and the sovereign is born. A sovereign who doesn't need to shout because their silence weighs. Who doesn't need to beg because their presence is claim enough? Who doesn't need to be understood because their action is decree? From now on, each interaction is your training ground. Each rejection is your filter. Each provocation is your test. Each absence is your strategy. Each silence is your invisible dagger. And each unexpected gesture is your Trojan horse. If you apply this, you'll stop being a victim of the board. You'll become the player who moves the pieces. Remember, the world doesn't bow before truth, nor before justice, nor before reason. The world bows before certainty. Whoever acts as if they already had power obtains it. Whoever waits for approval becomes an eternal servant. So decide, will you continue seeking the perfect moment that never comes? Or will you take the step today now to claim what is yours? Nobody will come to give you permission. Nobody will come to save you. Nobody will come to recognize your value. That's your job. That's your war. When you win it, when you kill the inner servant and awaken the sovereign, you'll no longer need to talk about power. You will have become it.